was asked to give this presentation on proposing perfect panels, and I think the reason they asked me is because I've been with GCLS since 2013. I've been running the Writing Academy since 2015. I was the director of education for several years, and I have sat on the panel selection committee for something like 5 or 6 years, and I'm on the panel selection committee again this year. That's because I have a hard time saying no when people ask me to do things. Also, because I really, really love the panels and presentations that we give at our conferences, and I want to be part of bringing really awesome stuff to the conference. So this is just how to make your panels so perfect that we have no choice but to want to say, yes, we want to do this one. We are recording this, so if you have to duck out or anything, you can do so. Please feel free to chat with each other in the chat. Don't forget to change it to everyone so that everyone can see your words, unless you just want to privately say something to me like, hey, Finn, you look really hot today. You don't really probably want everyone to see that. So otherwise, don't forget to change your thing to everyone so you can chat with each other. And if I get bored, then you can entertain each other. All right, so this is probably self-explanatory, but the absolute best way to get on a panel is to be the person who proposes it. A lot of people kind of sit back and passively wait and hope to be put on a panel. But if you don't know a ton of people, or if you haven't been to a lot of conferences, or if you're not involved in a lot of the activities yet, people might not think to ask you to be on a panel, and that's okay. It's not really overlooking you. It's just that they have other things going on in their heads. So for you to propose a panel means you get to control the subject. You get to tailor it to your interest and your expertise. You get mostly to say who might be on the panel with you. You don't get to leave everything to fate. You get to control the narrative. And since you know you're writers and readers and editors and publishers, like we all want to control our own narrative. So with that in mind, I'm assuming that you're all here because you want to propose a panel and that you really, really, really want it to be accepted, or you're just a big fan of me and you just showed up to watch me wave my hands around and say things excitedly. But either way, it's a win-win situation because I am going to walk you through how to make it happen. And the panels that I have listed in this slide presentation, I think sound like a really great idea. So if you're going to be proposing panels on cat hair sweaters and queer historical mysteries, et cetera, I'm way behind you on that one. Okay, so first and foremost, this is hugely important. What does the committee want? I think I can speak for everyone on the committee when I say we want to see diversity. This is so hugely important, especially when it comes to racial diversity, orientation, gender expression. And it's not because we want to fill a checklist of diversity, but because these are the voices that are valuable and have been historically excluded, and we want to hear from them, right? Like everyone wants a place, but what we want to do is we want to open the table to more people. It doesn't mean anyone's being replaced or anyone's being excluded. It just means we're making space for more people. And that's an amazing feeling. Like, who doesn't want to be part of that? Before you think about proposing your panel, ask yourself if you have any people of color on it. Ask yourself if you have any trans or non-binary folks on it. Once you've done that, then you can consider other diversity factors, which I kind of see as less of a diversity thing and more of just branching out. So making a panel with readers or writers or editors or people from different publishing houses. And let's not forget our indies, because I'm a huge fan of our indie writers. And make sure to reach out to indie authors, or make sure to reach out to people from different publishing houses. I'm not saying, and this is really important, I'm not saying that every single panel has to have an editor and an audiobook narrator and a reader and a writer and a book reviewer. If you have space for 5 people and a moderator, I'm not getting crazy here. What I really want is to see some sign of you being intentional and you're not just submitting a homogenous group. Betty, that's a great question. And I would say, so Betty said, what if we don't know if they're GCLS members? I would say reach out to them and ask, say, you know, hey, I heard that you're an expert in this panel on recording audiobooks using cat meows, and I'm going to propose this panel at the next GCLS conference. Are you a member? And if not, hey, don't you want to go to Albuquerque and be part of this conference and be on this panel about recording audiobooks using cat meows and meet all of these really phenomenal writers and readers and publishers? Like it might be a great talking point. But yeah, I would say just ask. It was a lot easier last year, McGee, because we were virtual and we're live this year. And, you know, it can definitely be easier to ask someone, hey, I know you're not in GCLS, but come be on our virtual panel. Getting someone to agree to go to Albuquerque and be at a conference might be a little bit harder, but you never know. You might reach out to somebody who had never even heard of GCLS or who has been dying to find a conference with a bunch of cool LGBTQ readers and writers and publishers and so much more. And like you reach out to them and they find out about it and now like you've changed their world. So yeah, you never know. So just be intentional. And of course, we have the understanding that sometimes a panel specifically speaks to something that only a publisher would speak on or only a reader would speak on. At the last conference, I had a panel called Writing Trauma, and the panel was specifically about the act of writing about trauma. So everyone on that panel was an author. That made sense. But within those panelists, I also had a poet, an author who does improv on the side, an author who's also an indie filmmaker, and a memoir writer and a mystery writer. So even though I just had all authors in that appointment, I did have a great deal of diversity in a lot of different ways. So I really think it's important to say that when I say I want diversity, I'm not saying that you have to pick people just to check off your diversity list. I'm saying reach out to people who do fulfill diversity requirements and also are experts in the fields. I will get to some of these questions later, Lydia, because I'm going to address yours later, but I will say this to Joanne. So a panel member must be a member, she says. No. If you have someone who's coming to conference and they are not yet a GCLS member, I would say that there's no reason for them to not be able to sit on your panel, although they'll probably want to become a member if they're coming to our conference, but they don't have to be. One last thing I do really like to say about the diversity is don't choose someone to be on your panel just because they represent what you think is diversity. Like if you ask someone to be on your panel about mystery writing, make sure they're actually a mystery writer or a mystery reader or someone who edits a ton of mystery writers, or they own a mystery bookstore, or just something that gives them expertise on the panel. JC, everybody has to pay to go to the conference. So yeah, if they were going to the conference, they would still have to register and pay to go to the conference. But if you're saying like if they just live in Albuquerque and you want to bring them in just to be on a panel, but they're not going to come to the conference, then I would say that no, that they would still have to at least be coming to the conference to be on a panel, if that makes sense. And Elizabeth Carswell says, I like seeing diversity go beyond the same couple of people, and they maybe appreciate it too. Absolutely. We have room for so many people at the table. So yeah, it's great to kind of move beyond that. A great way to submit a winning panel proposal. And for those of you who kind of feel uncomfortable about going through forms, at the end of this, I'm going to give you the opportunity to kind of just like leave if you're done and don't want to be here anymore. But if you want to stay, I'm going to walk through the actual presentation proposal and propose a panel so that you can see it happen. So that'll make it a little less scary when you go to do it on your own. So some great ways to make sure that your panel gets accepted is to think about making panels interesting or new. That said, There are some panels that are always going to be popular. There's always some panel that's on writing sex, and that's generally accepted every year because people love it. We generally will have at least one marketing panel. We do love a range of genre focused stuff, so don't be afraid to propose a panel on historical fiction or on comedy writing. And panels on fanfic are almost always well attended because we do have a big fanfic base in our group, and a lot of our writers started in fan fiction. So yeah, there are some proposals that are going to be popular no matter what. And, you know, you can't also know what other people are planning. So if we get 3 panels on marketing, unless the descriptions give us reason to believe they're going to be wildly different, we're probably only going to end up picking one. And how are we going to decide which one to pick? Well, we're going to go right back to the diversity of that panel and say, hey, did these people get a wide range of people to be on this panel? And if so, well, this is the one that's going to be picked. So we love a blend of educational panels and fun panels. A panel on comedy this year was very well attended. It was a lot of fun, but just as well as attended was a panel on late in life authors, people that didn't publish their first book until I think after they were 50. We just have a nice range of ideas. I like having something for everyone. So if you want to propose a panel specifically on audiobooks, maybe that only involves a few people, but it's going to be interesting, and I'm going to be interested in seeing it because it's probably the only one on that. Don't be afraid to branch out. There was a panel on gender nuances this year, which was informative and incredibly entertaining and interesting. I learned a lot, and I am genderqueer, so you know, you never know what you're going to have there. And we're, as writers and readers and publishers, we kind of need to learn all about the human experience. So don't be afraid to branch out. One of my favorite panels this year was the conference opener of this year, which was From Novice to Novels, the GCLS Writing Academy experience. And while I might be a little bit biased because it was GCLS Writing Academy, the panel was fun. It was educational, and it specifically probably wouldn't appeal to everyone because it's geared toward emerging authors, or Writing Academy folks, or, you know, early career authors, but it was so well presented, and the panel proposal was so well done and had such a great diversity of people on it that we just had to accept it. To me, it was clear that the person who presented that panel had really done their homework. Other great panel proposals that we got that were just kind of unique and interesting: Dystopia Narrative, Surviving the Brave New World. The Lesbian Review presents The Rise of the Ice Queen. I loved the title of that one, so I was already piqued when I heard that. There was one called Writing as a Team Sport. So, and along those lines, we do sometimes get more than one panel about creative writing communities, and we did this year. This one was selected because it had a diverse group of participants. The description was really well written, and it seemed to offer more than just a discussion about why community is important, but it kind of offered viable ways to create that community. So for me, it was appealing for all of those reasons, and the rest of the panel committee felt that as well. Now, a lot of times panels are chosen because they sound interesting and they have great titles. A panel on crime fiction, for example, might come in with a title called Writing Crime Fiction, but at the same time, we got a submission for a panel called Art Imitating Life, Hard Truths and Not So Happy Endings. Well, if I'm just choosing based on title, that title is going to get me, because you know what happens if you submit a panel that just says Writing Crime Fiction? I'm going to be part of the team that has to think of an interesting title before we put it in the workshop, or in the what's that thing called, that the agenda, the schedule. Yes. So the less work that I have, the happier I am. Now, the title's not the only thing. If we get into the description and the participants, and the one that said Writing Crime Fiction came out way better, I would end up picking that. But just think about your title as well. It's the first thing we see. So queer retellings, reclaiming fairy tales, myths, and legends. I was already interested before we even got to the description. So the last thing I want to mention in this category is that the panel should speak to the GCLS mission, which is, and I wrote this one down because I didn't know if I'd be able to memorize it. The Golden Crown Literary Society is a 501c3 nonprofit volunteer organization whose mission is to increase the visibility and integrity of literature about women loving women. The 4 pillars are education, promotion, recognition, and inclusion. This doesn't mean that you have to create a panel that specifically touches every single one of these things. It just means that our guiding principles are education, promotion, recognition, inclusion. So just try to keep those in mind as you're thinking about your panel. I know this all sounds like a lot right now, but I think that once you get into it, you find that it's a lot easier than you think. And a quick note about all this before we move on. All of these same concepts also apply to proposing presentations. Brenda Murphy's presentation was accepted because the title, first of all, was excellent, Silencing the Noise and Freeing the Writer Within. I was already interested. And then the description was intriguing. It was specifically about challenges neuroatypical people, those with anxiety, depression, ADHD, ASD face when completing a novel. So we felt the presentation was not only unique, but would appeal to a large portion of our membership. So keep that in mind. Is it interesting? Is it unique? Will it appeal to a large portion of the membership? Is it something that we've seen before, but you can put your own spin on it? Either way. So if you're submitting a panel with panelists, and I do recommend you do, but you don't have to, talk to them first to make sure that A, they're going to con, and B, that they want to be on your panel. I can't tell you how many proposals we got with people written as panelists that the panelists had never actually heard anything about it before we reached out to them. So I will tell you this, I'm incredibly embarrassed when I email someone and say, hey, this proposal was submitted and your name's on it. This is, the panel you're going to be on. And they write back and say, what? I have no idea what you're talking about. So it is better to leave a panelist slot blank than to put someone on there that you've never actually spoken to. So make sure if you're going to put them on, make sure you have your email addresses. I'll get to that a little bit in a few minutes at the end of the presentation when we go through the panelist app. But yeah, just make sure that you've talked to them, that they're interested, and that they have the expertise that you need for your panel. So you don't know anyone. You've never met anybody before. You have this great panel idea about queer librarian cat sitters who regret getting tattoos. I mean, come on, who wouldn't want to be on that panel? If you propose that one, by the way, I'm not a librarian, but you know what? Whatever your panel is, it's a great idea. It's going to be great. You don't know enough people to make it happen. That's okay. You can submit it without any names. We love a great panel submission that's already filled out, but we do still have people that come to us and ask if we have any panels that they could be on once all of the panels are chosen. So for that circumstance, we do like to have a number of panels that have great ideas that we can put people on it. So don't be afraid to propose your great idea, even if you don't have folks for it. And don't be afraid to reach out to people on social media and ask them who they think would be great. Don't be afraid to have conversations about it on Twitter and to get people involved in it. You can tag me in it. I will retweet your tweets all day long and try to amplify your voice there. If you want to discuss it, there are ways to do that. But if you don't, you can go ahead and promote it anyway. And along those lines, if you have a great idea and you don't even want to be on the panel, but you think it would be a great idea for a panel, that's something that you would like to see, please feel free to go ahead and propose it anyway. I proposed the What's So Funny panel for the virtual conference this year, and I never had an intention of being on it, although I think I'm a little funny, but I thought it would be a great panel, even though I didn't want to be on it. And Lydia said, do you reach out generally to members when there are panels needing panelists? Yes, we reach out to GCLS members when there are panels needing panelists. Now, last year they did something new that they had never done before, which was to have a panelist application. So even if you weren't proposing a panel at all, but you wanted to be considered for panels, you could fill out this application. And then we had a list of everyone who had filled out that application. And then what their likes were, what their interests were, what their fields of expertise, what kind of panel type stuff that's how I found people for the comedy, because we had people that listed that comedy was something they were interested in. So I'm not sure if they're doing that again this year, but I think they might. And if they do, get on the GCLS mailing list so you can make sure to keep in touch about that. But yeah, if somebody's not a GCLS member, we're generally not going to reach out to them to fill those empty spots on the panels when we have so many members that also want to be on them. So this is my little truth bomb about panels. If you want to control the direction of the panel, you have to be involved. So if you propose a panel and you write the description and you're not going to be on it and you're not going to moderate it, and then someone else moderates it and a bunch of different people are on it, and the group decides on how they're going to direct the panel, there's just no guarantee it's going to go the way you envision. So if you're just proposing a panel that you're not on, and you just think it'd be a great panel, you're letting it go out into the world. Like, you raised it to this point and now you're kicking it out and other people are going to direct it. So you might have put in the idea, but unless you're involved and you're controlling the direction, don't get upset if it doesn't go exactly the way you intended. People are strange animals, and when they get together in groups and start talking about stuff, things are going to change and evolve. And the best way you can control the way the panel goes is just staying involved in it. Panels are filled with people, and ideas evolve from people. And I think that's a phenomenal thing. So if you wanted to go a certain way, you definitely have to be involved. And McGee says, I've heard conflicting thoughts on the number of panelists. What is the goal number? The goal number is 5. I think 5 gives everyone enough time to talk about things. It means that we can have equal voice from everyone and still give audience a chance to ask questions. If you have something really spectacular and you have a phenomenal group and you only have 4, go ahead and submit it anyway, and we might take it as is. The writing trauma panel last year only had 4 people on it because it was a really deep subject. And it was 4 and 1 moderator. So generally we have 5, right? 5 joints, 5 and 1 moderator, 5 panelists, 1 moderator. But I'm not going to get too much into moderating because that wasn't what I was talking about here, but I do want to say that the moderator is not there to give their opinion on the subject. They're just there to control the talk. So the moderator is not like having another panelist on it. They're just there to keep the panelists talking. And yeah, McGee, there's always going to be, if you submit a short panel, then you're probably going to get somebody on it. And then that's another way that if you make sure that you have those 5 panelists on there, then those panelists will stay on as long as you have a diverse group. So I know this is kind of a short class, but this is basically the end of the presentation, except I'm going to stop sharing my screen and then I'm going to go into the panelist app. But before I do, I want to know if anyone has any questions. Lydia, yes, you can propose yourself as the moderator. In fact, I love it when you do that. If you propose the panel on firefighter cat people from outer space and queer science fiction, and you're like, I can moderate that, go ahead and do it. Sometimes with moderators, we want to have seen some kind of experience, but not always. We'll sometimes take someone who we've never seen moderate a panel before and put them out there and see how they do. we keep little lists, you know, and as we go through the years, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, absolutely. No, a moderator shouldn't be participating in the discussion. The moderator should be directing the discussion, but I mean, they can ask questions and maybe they can give just like a little blurb here and there. But for the most part, the moderator is not there to be a panelist. They're just there to direct the flow. So I just want to walk you through this because some people do get confused about filling out forms or don't like it. I'm logged in, I think, so it automatically put in my name, but it's pretty self-explanatory on the first page. They want your name, email address, phone number. Now you all have my phone number, you know, don't take advantage of it. Did you watch the GCLS video by Finney and Burnett? Let's see, hang on. Here is the link. There is the link. I believe you could also find it by going to the homepage and going to conference information. And they should have something there for proposing panels. So yes, we watch working title, CAT Firefighters in Queer Science Fiction. And let's see, I think that this is entertainment and reader engagement. Panel description, we will talk about CAT Firefighters in Queer Science Fiction. Your description should be a lot better than mine. So now it goes to the next page and it says, would you like to moderate? And I'm going to say that no, I do not want to serve as moderator for this panel because Kimberly Cooper Griffin would be a phenomenal moderator for this. McGee, you had people propose for you. Yeah, and you can absolutely do that. So now I have a description, I have a moderator. We have this thing comes up that says panelist expectations. And that is responding to emails from the moderator, participate in pre-conference planning calls or emails. I've been on several panels. I've never had to be on a phone call about that. So don't let that stop you if that's something that weirds you out, talking to strangers on the phone. We've always done it through email. Show up and come to the panel prepared to talk about it, be involved and engaged, be considerate of fellow panelists by sharing your time equally or equitably. Don't talk like I'm doing right now because you all have no choice but to listen to me. Next, panelists. Well, I definitely know that Karen Badger would love to talk about CAT firefighters. And I do know that Karen is a GCLS member. I do not know her email address, but you will if you put her on your panel. So make sure to put that in there. She is a published author. She's coming on Wednesday. Why is she qualified to sit on this panel? Because she once played a cat person in a movie that caught fire. And did she submit a panelist application? Absolutely, because Karen would never not submit a panelist application. So we move on. And then as you can see, it's just asking for more panelists. I don't know who else would be good in this, so I'm just going to skip through. I've proposed a moderator. I've proposed a panelist. I have put in an incredible description. Now they're wanting to know if you have an alternate panelist. This is in case you really have the idea of who you think should be on the panel and you want to put an extra alternate on it just in case Karen Badger can't make it. Then you know that you could put Betty Powell on it instead, and Betty will step in and talk about CAT firefighters. So at the end, you just get to the proposer agreement. My signature here says that I have reviewed this. I'm good with my topic. I'm going to hit submit. And there we go. You won't hear anything until after December 31st, so don't freak out. However, if you do freak out, you are more than welcome to email me at finian.burnett. I should write this in at goldencrown.org. And yeah, Kimberly Cooper Griffin said that she really needed the alternate this year. So it's nice that you have the option. Is there a directory of GCLS members? I don't know that we have a public, but what I do know is that everyone who's registered for the conference shows up on the list of who's coming to the conference. So that definitely helps. Is there a separate application for proposing presentations? Yes, there is, because a presentation is just you or you and another person. This year, Kimberly Cooper Griffin and I are going to propose a masterclass on writing flash fiction. So the conference list is available as people sign up for it. So can you see me? Have I switched my screen? Can you see that I'm on the GCLS homepage now? Here, let's go down to register. There are 69 people who have registered for conference so far. So if you go to the home page and then you click down on conference and click on register, I've already registered for this event, but I can view the 69 people who have already registered. Now, more people will be registering as we go along. So it's not too late for panel proposal. Another thing, Betty, that you can think about is if you want to propose your panel and there's no one on the list that's really appealed to you yet for your panel, because after you put my name on it, you were like who else could be on there, then you can just submit it without. And again, as I said earlier, don't be afraid to just ask people, are you going to conference? And if so, do you want to be part of this? Some people might suddenly decide to go because they got excited about hearing your excitement about it. And you know, if it's December 29th and you haven't proposed your panel yet and you really want to get it in and you don't have the people, propose it without the people on it and let it, you know, it'll still be a month or a couple months as we're going through them. So if you propose yours and then 3 weeks later, somebody says, you know what, I wasn't going to make it to Albuquerque, but now I can, just email me and we will try to work that out for you. So I'm going to stop sharing now so you can see my incredibly gorgeous face and my bookshelves behind me, which are fake. And I just want to ask if there's any other questions. I know it seems like we might have gone through that fast, but that's because it's pretty self-explanatory. I do want to say that I did put my email in the chat, and if you want a copy of the slides, then please feel free to email me and I'll send them to you. Also, if you go to put in your panel proposal and you get nervous or you have any more questions, or if you get scared or whatever and you want me to virtually hold your hand, as long as it doesn't involve a phone call, then I will happily do that for you. McGee, yeah, we have actually blended panels that were the same topic, but it was because they came through each of them with just a couple panelists. So we were able to take the two and blend them together after reaching out to the two proposers. In fact, we did that one year with two marketing panels that were very similar, and it worked out really well. But if they both come in super full and they kind of meet all of our requirements, then we would probably just end up picking one. That's why the description is such an important part, because if you have a description that shows why yours is different, then even if we have two marketing panels, or even if we have two panels on writing community, or, you know, last year we had a panel on writing trauma, and we also had a, you know, writing through the hard stuff panels, but the descriptions of them were different enough that we felt that they would each have something to offer. So I have a question, and the question and answer says, is the finite number of panels selected the same every year, or is it space dependent? It is space dependent. We always have more panels than anything else. We kind of move on the master classes. Some years we have 4 or 5. A couple years we've had 2. This year we had 3. And then presentations, a lot of that depends on how many we get. So if we get 50 presentations and 50 panels, then we might try to split them up. But if we only get, say, 10 presentation proposals and we're only going to take 5 or 6 of them, then we'll have more panels just because there's more space. McGee, I'm not sure about the filming and the replay when it's live. Last time I was at a live conference, we did not record every presentation or panel. So I think that would be an individual thing. But yeah, if they're going to record it, you would have to agree to it. But I don't think that you have to agree to it. And Lydia, masterclass proposals, kind of the same as presentation proposals. If you propose a masterclass, I will say masterclasses, we try to keep those just super educational about craft of writing. Anyone can come to them, but they are meant to be more of a pedagogical approach, if that makes sense. Whereas a presentation can be fun, can be exciting. You can do something on beta reading or, how to find a cat firefighter in queer science fiction, whatever your expertise is. I don't know exactly how many slots there are, but I will say this, that it's rare for us to have more proposals than we have slots, and the panel committee usually ends up having to make some up. So don't be afraid to submit. Master classes are different. We probably will only do maybe 2 or 3 master classes. So thank you everyone so much. Karen, I cannot wait to give you a hug in Albuquerque. Thank you, everybody. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free. Oh, the type was small. Okay, well, there is a recording, Betty, and if you go through it and you get stuck and you need any questions, or you have any questions, please email me. And I look forward to seeing you all in Albuquerque. My pleasure. Thank you all very much.